potent advice, and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to the Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I am Jaime Masters, and I'm so excited to have Rob Scott on the show today. Now, one of the really amazing things that I heard on his site is that he shifts identities. He's an amazing master business coach, and you can find him at robscott.com. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
I'm really glad to be here.
Okay, so what is shifting identities? Because I was like, ooh, that sounds sexy, but I have no idea what it is.
So we're gonna get right at it. Okay, so essentially, we all carry a sense of self, like a self-concept about ourselves. And so for a lot of people who are starting out businesses or doing anything and they're kind of hitting their edge of what they think is possible, you know, we end up with these kind of invisible ceilings about how much money we think we can earn, about how much we believe we're worth, what's possible for us. Oh, I can never do that because I'm not there yet. Well, the act of actually changing in any significant way actually requires you to shift your identity. And what most coaches are doing and what most people are doing is they're doing that externally by changing habitual stuff against this current identity, which takes like tons of willpower and energy, and it's all like difficult. But if you do that long enough, eventually your subconscious kind of shifts over and goes, oh, I guess we're an entrepreneur now, finally. Instead of I want to be an entrepreneur someday, it's how do you do it now? So instead of doing that through willpower, I actually go inside and we do that like in your subconscious. We do through hypnotic stuff and a little NLP and some other things based in psychology. We go in there and show you how you can change your own identity much more easily immediately in the moment and actually step into it. And what's amazing about it is that all the behaviors are kind of in that identity. So if I take a woman who's hugely overweight, let's say, her identity really, if she gets honest about it, is, kind of a loser. I can't follow through. I eat too much. I'm just a big fat fatty, whatever. She's got that kind of mentality going on. If I change her into I am an athlete, she may be a 100-pound overweight athlete, but taking on the identity of I am an athlete. And I don't mean faking it. I mean really taking that on. All of a sudden, what do athletes do? Well, they work out. They eat differently. They care about this. They don't freak out if they have a cupcake at lunch. They just, go work it out later. They own workout equipment or workout shoes, that kind of stuff. And so that's the fastest path to profound change. And so I've developed this whole process over like a decade or more. And now I take people through a group process and have programs that help people do that.
Everyone's like, that sounds amazing and kind of crazy. Because that's the other thing, right? Yeah. We've heard a lot of this stuff in general. And a lot of the times, like even for me, I did a lot of willpower. Oh, wait, I am actually good. Oh, wait, someone said I was really good. Oh, wait, no. Yeah. You know what I mean? Over and over and over again. And then it kind of started to sink in. How do you do your system so that it sticks? Because no offense, a lot of people are like, yeah, hypnosis, whatever, but they try it and then it doesn't actually stick long term.
Sure. So it didn't stick because you didn't really change anything and you carried your own concepts about yourself. So let me give you a simple example of an identity shift. Somebody who is not a parent and then becomes a parent, there's an identity shift in that, right?
A little bit. A little bit.
Yeah. Like all of a sudden you have a whole different sense of who you are, what your responsibilities are.
Yep.
And the other thing is your identity is changing all the time. You're no longer your 5-year-old self. You're no longer your 10-year-old self, right? But there's this persistent story that we're telling ourselves. Now, for most people, we're taking on protection things so that we can remain safe. And that actually shuts us down and makes us small. And it makes us choose on a day-to-day basis to not do the risky thing like go do a public talk or get on a podcast or do something like that. Maybe later when I'm actually enough to do that, I'll do that. And so people who are facing resistance and doing all that stuff, you've got to go in and actually shift kind of how you see yourself. Can I explain this thing called lenses that I think is really,
No,
really...
you're totally not allowed to. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So consider like glasses, right? I'm wearing glasses right now, or it could be contact lenses, or it could be a microscope or a telescope or whatever. If you think of what the lens is, what its function is, right? It's very obvious that a lens changes how you see something, right? It might be useful. It might help you see better. Or if you put on somebody else's glasses, it's not useful. It makes it look worse, right? But the lens itself, the function of it is to change what you see. There's a second function to lenses that most people don't really think about, and that's that they're built to be invisible, right? If I'm not considering my lenses while I'm looking through my glasses. They're just altering what I see, and I just kind of take it as this is my new vision, right? This is what's going on. If I have raindrops on my glasses or scratches, and I have to consider the lens itself, it no longer functions as a lens, right?
Yep.
So our beliefs inside are happening like that. Our thoughts, our thought patterns about ourselves and what's possible and who we are and all these different things are their lenses. And like that, they're altering what we see. If I go into a meeting or a sales conversation thinking I'm the worst salesperson in the world, this is never going to work, these people aren't going to like me, that's a different lens of that situation than if I go, it's really fun to meet people. I love making connections. Let's see how this goes. This is going to be fun, right? Very different actual outcome from taking both of those concepts when you go into the sales meeting. Well, like good lenses, the different beliefs that you have about yourself and the different ways you see the world and what's going on, they're built to be invisible from you. And so we're all carrying these different sense of self of what's possible. I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm awesome, I'm good at this, but I'm not good at that. And if we want to change, we have to reconsider those and repattern them. And the long, slow way, again, is externally through habit and through doing one behavior at a time. But you can actually hack inside and go and see how you're seeing now, which for most people, it's a lens that you're not seeing. You're unaware of it. So my business is called Fundamental Shift, and that's basically based on the idea of you're looking through these lenses, these thoughts and these beliefs in your mind, right? And the fundamental shift is to actually move your awareness outside that and see how you're seeing, because just becoming aware of it starts to change it, because it's no longer just a fact of I'm bad at this or whatever. You can start to edit those and see, well, wait, what if I didn't say I was bad at that? What if I thought I'm good at that, or I love learning that or something? All of a sudden, it's a way more useful way to see and way to think. And your thoughts are driving your whole experience, right? Your thoughts are firing the neurons that make your limbic system do what it does in your body to make you feel confident or scared or anxious or whatever. So gaining mastery over this meaning-making thing that's between our ears is the shortcut to profound change.
So I love hearing that, especially the awareness part. But a lot of people that are listening right now probably have a lot of the awareness part, and it's annoying to them because they can't change it.
I bet they don't.
Okay, so I should say that.
Yeah.
So clients of mine, I should say, usually are aware. So like, for example, in a sales meeting or something like that, you realize after the fact, potentially not during, after the fact, oh my gosh, I had a whole bunch of crap of, oh, they don't like me, or, oh, this happens. And then their reaction is different, right? Because they assume that that's what their lens is.
Sure.
That being said, after the fact, they go, oh crap, I need to change my mindset. Right?
Yeah.
So they know that they have mindset issues and where they come.
Let me break this down of what they can see. So you have a conscious mind and you have an unconscious mind. You can't see what's in your unconscious mind. It's not conscious, right? So when I'm saying I bet they can't see it, what they're seeing there is they're beginning to see more, right? They're creeping up on some stuff, but the majority of what's going on for you, the patterns, like literally the processes that make your heart beat and make you blink and manage how hot you are in your body and what your cells are doing, totally outside of your consciousness. You don't have access to that stuff. And much of that stuff are core beliefs about yourself. So this idea of like, I wasn't confident in that meeting, that's the beginning of becoming aware of some stuff. But what I'm telling you is that there's something that happened to that person when they were 6 years old that they need to go look at and kind of reframe. And when they do that, they come back and they go, oh, I'm not scared of this thing at all. Like, I get it, right? It's a complete like, holy wow, I can totally do this other thing.
Okay,
right?
So they're seeing the output of the subconscious, which is conscious.
They're starting to learn more about themselves, about the thing that's obvious, right? But what I'm saying is that there's more there that's driving it underneath.
Hence, people go to therapy all the time. So tell me about this. I guess that's sort of the point. Because some people are like, oh, okay, I know I have issues, and it probably stems from somewhere because I know that I need to change my beliefs, blah, blah, blah. That's what everybody sort of gets told. Then you go to the therapist and you rehash things over and over and over again, and you don't ever feel like you're getting anything resolved. So how does that play into this? Exactly.
No. And I don't want to throw therapy under the bus. There's an absolutely amazing function of therapy. One of my critiques of most therapists, and many are amazing, many are very, very talented at lots of stuff I do, and they're great. The majority, if you think about any profession, they distribute on a bell curve, okay? And what I mean by that is down at the lower end of the bell curve, there's many people that shouldn't be doing it at all. They're really bad at what they do. The grand majority of therapists or mechanics or lawyers or whoever are okay to pretty good at what they do. And then there's these like exceptional people over here that are fantastic. I'm not talking about exceptional therapists. I'm talking about most therapy. I think that you end up dragging your past with you. And actually, it sort of solidifies maybe one level up of your identity. So if you're completely unaware of your issues, you're literally going to walk around the world kind of a dangerous person. You're going to have like anger stuff you don't understand. You're going to be lashing out and telling other people they're wrong when they're really not wrong. It's your own stuff, right? There's that. The therapy is amazingly useful for that, right? Because you become aware of, oh, like, that's where this stuff comes from. That's what's going on. But what most therapy does is it doesn't go much further than that. They just hope that becoming aware of it kind of heals you. Outside of like, cognitive behavioral therapy starts getting into what are strategies that now that we know that, what do we do with that to kind of change you and make you go forward through different thoughts, different feelings, and different behaviors, right? Because if you don't change those three realms, you didn't really change. You just now know more about yourself, right?
Yes.
So what's different about coaching, or at least certainly the coaching that I do, is we need to figure out what we need to figure out about your past, but then we need to put that down and actually create a new future for yourself and actually learn to be really, really deeply present and happy and confident here, right? Actually, I would venture to say most millionaires, most successful people even, are actually, certainly in our culture, are on this treadmill of time where they've made their first million, they made their second, they made their 10th million, and they're still not happy. They're still not satisfied, right? They're just chasing this thing. And many people can fall in love with that chase, but that's not the same as like the art of fulfillment, right? So there's this one sense or skill as a human being of actually learning, no matter what your station, can you be really, really grateful and really, really connected and really, really happy? Winning that is a bigger thing to win than just like numbers in a bank account somewhere, right? Now, we also like succeeding, right? And it's really important. You become more powerful if you can also succeed. But if you're only fulfilled and you're not very successful, you're not a very powerful person. If you're only succeeding and you're not very satisfied, you're a really unhappy person. So what I'm working on is I really want to bring people into this incredibly embodied, happy present where their identity is shifted into really who they want to be, what they're capable of, and all that. And then I want to teach them how to continue to create a vision and a beautiful future so that they're living in that space of creation that's really, really powerful and profitable and amazing.
Heck yeah. Okay, so that's sort of the whole point of Eventual Millionaire, that it's not about the money, because that doesn't necessarily bring fulfillment and happiness, which is exactly what you're talking about. So I want to get into those pieces, but before we get into like how do we become more grateful, some of the people that are listening, I'm assuming are like, oh great, thanks Rob, appreciate it, but pretty much everything I can do is just hire you and you can fix it and that's it, right? So is there anything that we can give them to do on their own so that way they can see glimpses of this instead of it just being like, oh, hire Rob, otherwise I'm screwed?
For sure. Well, step one is always hire Rob. I mean, like, let's be clear. No, let's put this into 3 steps, right? Let's put this into 3 steps for people. The first one is, and we've already kind of talked about some of it, you have to become aware of what's going on for yourself. So the skill of the human mind to become more aware of itself is the shortcut, right? That is the fundamental shift to get us out of the mire of just, repeated misery and upset and not understanding and like, wow, I want to do this thing, but I keep procrastinating. I just can't do it. You need to become aware of what's going on there. And I actually heard Tony Robbins do this great little story about kind of explaining how awareness is curative. And everybody could kind of imagine for a moment that you're in this live event and there's fold out chairs everywhere and you're watching the guy on stage. And while you're enjoying this event, all of a sudden, all the lights go out, like completely go out, that you can't see a thing. There's not even light coming in through the doors. And all of a sudden this big voice says, hey, please find your way to the exit. So now maybe you've got pandemonium, maybe people are together, but you're not navigating your space very well. You're bumping into chairs, you're bumping into people, you don't really know where to go, whatever. And then halfway across the room, all of a sudden all the lights come back on, right? And now it's like, well, at least I'm aware of these obstacles, right? So if you're aware of the obstacles, they don't have the same kind of power over you. They don't bite at you in the same way. You can navigate them, right? So step one is to become aware. And I could tell you a way to do that soon. It's certainly not difficult, right? But there's a way that you can become more aware of what's going on for yourself.
We want to know how to be more aware. Because we feel like we're pretty aware, but there's always more to be aware of, I'm sure.
For sure. So, but let me just go through the three levels. The second level is you might get to the door, and let's say there's just chairs piled up in front of the door, and you really want to get out. Well, just being aware of those chairs, now it's even though it was helpful to see the other chairs in your way, these need to be dealt with. These need to be moved or changed or whatever. So the second level is actually to change the stuff that's going on for you. And that's where you start to get into much, much, much more power. And then once you've decided and had the courage to change them, what I do is a process called repatterning, where you can actually go in and you can repattern these things that are your basic assumptions about stuff. And when you change that, it sort of changes the base operating system of the whole psyche. And it's a really beautiful process. So how can people become aware? For now, literally just whip out a piece of paper and get really honest about how you hear yourself talking to yourself. And this is it's uncomfortable enough that people just they want to ignore it, right? But I want people to imagine when they're in their bed at night and they're most worried, like what are they saying to themselves? So, and especially what are the identity level things that they're saying to themselves? The I am, right? What are the big assumptions about stuff? So it might be, I'm not really good at business, or I'll never be wealthy, or that's just not for me. I'll never be popular. People won't like me, right? I'm not attractive. Whatever they are. And here's a little detail about that. These don't have to be 100% true. Okay, this is not, none of these will you fully believe because you're a multidimensional, you have many, facets to who you are. And in some moments you might feel really confident, really okay, and all that. But even if it's only 1% true, even if you just hear it and almost dismiss it immediately, I would suggest that it's bad software in the system. Okay, so just get out a sheet of paper and just get really honest. Like, what are you saying sometimes, right? And get 10 or 15 things down there, okay? And that would be becoming aware of what you're really saying to yourself. Now, most people are doing some of that, but they're trying to forget it as quickly as possible. They're jumping on their phone to go on Facebook, or they're watching a TV show, or they're doing drugs or drinking or something to not feel that. I'm inviting people at step one to get aware of what's really going on for yourself. Have the confidence to do that, right? So then how would we shift that? And I'll give you like a second level thing to do there. Just think about, instead of these things being true or not, because they may be partially true or they may be totally, you might say, that's absolute fact. I am ugly. Like, that will never be not true, right? Instead, think of, is it useful to think that way? Right? And if you put next to these things instead, what a more useful thought might be, right? So instead of I am ugly, I love when I look good. Instead of I'll never be successful, here's the thing, you can't do the thing that your subconscious just won't believe at all. We're not trying to go, I am a billionaire, I am a billionaire, I am a billionaire. Your system will go, no, like, you're not. What are you talking about? That's a lie. So what we're trying to craft here is, what is the choice, right? What is this different choice that's actually true, that you actually could get, your mind behind, and is just more useful? So instead of I'll never be wealthy, you would think I love when I make money, right? Like, that's true, and you get connected to that. And so just imagine the person who's constantly walking around going, I'll never be wealthy, I'll never be wealthy, and kind of making that true for themselves, versus the person that's like, I love when I make money, right? I love when I make money. And you can immediately, when you hear that, you just feel the difference, right? So the process here is those are the things that you're going to be able to see, right? Those are the things that I was talking to you about that are kind of, they're sort of out of your awareness, but you can still get to them. When you do work with a therapist or a coach or someone like me, we can help you find the stuff that's even deeper and harder to see yourself, right? Because you just kind of can't get there. It's hard to see your own shadow, right? So does that make sense? Is that a tangible thing for people to do?
It totally makes sense. And you, let's say you write those things down and then you're like, oh, but then I forget that I wrote it down and I never look at it again. Or, you know what I mean? Or bringing it up in the moment is difficult.
Yeah. What I do with people is then we repattern those in so that they go right into your subconscious and you actually take them on, so that the subconscious mind actually can, the subconscious mind is essentially only interested in survival. And it's a really interesting idea, right? It's a base level thing. It's not that interested in you being wildly happy or successful. It's just trying to do what worked yesterday that got you to wake up today, right? So this is why, and so our motivations aren't necessarily about pain and pleasure, okay? Because if you look at a battered woman and you keep asking, like, why don't you leave? Like, why don't you leave? She's not like going back for the pleasure of being there, right? It's a really bad situation. Our motivation structure at the subconscious level is much more about pain and familiarity. We're actually trying to avoid painful, dangerous, scary things, and we're trying to get into the familiar because the familiar is what worked. So what you find in your own life, and if you're not examining your life, you might not believe me on this, but if you look at it, if you journal, if you write anything, you'll find that week after week, month after month, almost everything that you do is habitual. There's very, little change to what your thinking patterns are, where you decide to go and all that. That's what makes your identity so persistent. That's what makes you think, no, this is really who I am, okay? Your subconscious is trying to go, hey, it was safe to go to this job yesterday. Even though I want to do other things, let's keep doing that because it's safe, because it's safe, because it's safe. So the subconscious mind is going to consciously choose safety in what you did before. And when you introduce a new thing, it's scary, and it takes that conscious willpower for most people to pull themselves out of that. What I do with repatterning is we go in and repattern this new thing so it's comfortable and safe. And the subconscious mind has this choice between this old thing that's comfortable that kind of sucks, nobody's into, and this new thing that's now not new and dangerous. We've made it completely safe to do it. So you immediately kind of come out of that and go, oh, like, being an entrepreneur is amazing. I'm totally about that. I do that. That's who I am, right? And you just take that on.
How does that work though? Like in the neuroscience side, because I feel like I don't know, and this is I love reading about this stuff. So what science stuff? Because I'm actually going to a meditation retreat for my birthday. That's a week long. That is all about this stuff, right?
Nice.
Reprogramming and all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm a fan.
Oh, I have to
So
invite you into my challenge. I have a 7-day awareness challenge you need to try.
So, and this is the thing. When I meditate, there's all sorts of different things that I go down that path. And a lot of entrepreneurs are like, don't get me to meditate. I don't want to think
Sure,
I don't want to
sure.
hear those thoughts so loudly. But when we're talking about subconscious, like you said, where we don't even know, it's not even the meditation of the thoughts coming up. It's something way deeper. Tell me more about the science side of how that works. Like, why does it matter so much about safety and security? I get that, we're evolutionary human beings, but how can we go in and repattern stuff that way?
Yeah. So let's just think about how neurons kind of fire in the brain. Couple of quick details that are just useful to talk about, right? So as your neurons fire in your brain, there's a lot of ways that they fire. When you touch things, when you think things, you're firing neurons. When you do this, if you see different colors, right? These different neurons at different parts of your body and in your brain are firing, and they strengthen as they fire, right? So if you keep thinking about something, you're not going to forget it because that's a very strong set of neuronal bundles that are firing together all the time. As you kind of move away from something that happened a long time ago, those neurons don't fire as hard, and actually finding a memory is finding those same neurons that kind of fired in the same way to do something, right? So what happens when neurons fire? First off, they decide to fire together so that they strengthen, and that's how you gain mastery at things. That's how you remember things. That's kind of where our consciousness is being built. But what happens down in the more root center of the brain is that's firing off things in your limbic system, which actually start to fire off different hormones. It calls up different parts of your body that create hormonal things in your body and all that stuff, which might create stress or might create ease or might create whatever. Okay. Now, if you're truly in a stressful situation, like you're in war or you found a fight or somebody's yelling at you in your relationship, you're going to naturally fire off these fear situations. Your body's going to react to that, and some of that fear is immediate in how your neurology is relating to it, but your body gets hormones and these chemicals that can keep that for hours or days, right? So that stress response, let's say you're way over caffeinated from coffee or you've done some other stimulant or whatever, that can take a really long time to truly settle the system, right? To really get back to calm. We like it because it's common and normal to our subconscious. We start to pattern that, and that starts to become who we are. I'm a big coffee drinker. That's what I do all the time, right? So what we're doing is we're starting to understand that the real power here is that you have habits of thought and habits of behavior that create literally a chemistry in your body that creates a reality of how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. And so then if you want to change, right, everybody wants to change, but they don't really want to change who they are. They go, I want all these new results, but I don't want to think anything differently, and I don't really want to feel anything. I mean, maybe I'll be happy or whatever, but I don't really want to change my habits. And that's ridiculous. That's the people that you see just lamenting about becoming a different person, but they're not really changing. So this act is really about beginning with thought. How are you making meaning? And as we can start to change some of that thinking, different neuronal bundles start to fire and form. And as they do, it fires different reactions in your limbic system. You get a whole different hormonal structure in your body, and you literally are a new person, right? You now don't think the same thoughts. You don't feel the same feelings. You don't have the same behaviors. Now, don't worry about that. It's not like you lose who you were or people forget who you are or whatever, but this is the science of change, right? This is the way that we actually enroll ourselves to actually take on new habits and new things. So what are new thinkings in normal sense? That's not about like the way I do identity shifting. If you read a new book and learn a new skill and you hone that enough, what's that doing? It's firing off different neuronal bundles. It's giving you different ideas about what you can do in your business and all that. If you happen to feel good enough about that, you'll go take action on that in the world. And if you take enough action about that, you'll gain mastery and skill. And that will now become something that's in your toolbox. I didn't know how to do Facebook marketing, and now I do know how to do Facebook marketing. And it's like old hat to me. But at the beginning, it wasn't old hat at all. I didn't know how to do it. It was scary, all that stuff, right? So this is the fact of going in and understanding how different our reality is. I know I'm babbling, but can I do one more little example? We're a creature that can literally sit alone in a room, completely safe, and just start thinking thoughts about our taxes or about dangerous people outside or about the state of the world and our politics, whatever. And even just talking about some of that could trigger some of the people listening to have a limbic response and actually feel fear as if all that stuff is really happening right in the world. It's a completely imaginary reality that we live in, but it's firing all these very real experiences and behaviors and ways of thinking and being in our body. So it's really funny to me that nobody in like school or anything else is trying to give us a little bit of a roadmap about how our brain actually works. They're just saying, hey, this most important thing that's making up all your meaning, that's firing all the ways you feel about the world, everything you think and all that, just let that be injured in middle school with a heartbreak. Let's let you feel embarrassed over here. Let's let you do that. And then you're going to grow up and you're going to be fairly unstable and nobody's going to help you with that. But hey, just go make money because that'll fix everything, right? Like that's not the way that we should really do it. And so what I'm trying to do in like a big way, like I'm on a mission, I really want to help people gain this level of skill over understanding what it takes to actually change who they are to optimize completely, right? Mentally, emotionally, and physically and behaviorally so that they truly become the person that they really, really, really want to be. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I have 1,000 things that I want to say. Number one, that's why I don't watch the news, and that's why a lot of people listening don't watch the news because it's you know what I mean, trigger. And one of the things and the reasons why I'm going
to this news is absurd. Can we just sort of say that out loud? It's absurd. It's not even news anymore.
I know it's like fear, right? Yeah. And you're like, I choose to watch this. My parents watch it. I'm like, no, I don't want to, subject myself to that. But you were saying beforehand, one of the reasons why I started going down a specific type of meditation is because I injured myself. I'm supposed to have surgery. I'm a mutant. I was born with extra bones in my body, weirdo thing, right?
Nice.
Yay, I know. X-Men, go. Yeah, that's what I say. Anyway, so I read this book called You Are the Placebo, and it talks about, and I love the placebo effect, and I really adore what you're saying in general, because I feel like you said people don't understand this. But when you were going through, you were saying everybody wants to change, but they're not willing to change their thoughts and their whatever, their habits.
Your ego is persistent. That's the way to say it. Okay,
so do we need to know why we're not changing in order to change? Does that make sense? Okay.
Not at all. No, you just.
So what do we do right now? If we're like, okay, I know I want to change, and apparently my ego is really, really strong, and I'm not, but I'm reading books and I'm trying and I'm listening to this.
How about we do this? How about we stop pretending that your ego is a real thing? Your ego is not a findable. It's not a findable thing. There really is no you. You are a persistent story. You're a bunch of memories that will shift over time. If you get Alzheimer's, you're not you anymore, right? There's no person there to find. If you had a brain injury or did something like that, so there's this persistent sense of self, which is completely useful for evolution, right? I'm not saying that we should just all walk around like completely lost and not knowing who we are like Alzheimer's patients. I'm just suggesting that there's this process going on that feels so persistent in our personality that we take on, and you'll hear it in lower level consciousness people. And I don't mean to, I don't know how else to say that, but there's some people that are more aware and kind of understand these things, and there's people that are really, really not aware at all. When they talk about themselves in the world, you'll hear them talk in facts. I am this. He is that. That guy is this, right? When you actually start growing your consciousness and seeing, you start to realize it's way more loose than that, right? In this moment, I was that, or I felt that way, but I also change. I'm also open to seeing new things and thinking differently. Some people will come to me in my coaching and they'll be like, why, Rob, why don't we keep heroes? Like Lance Armstrong, we lost him, and, people do these good things and they do bad. Like, where are our heroes? And I said, there's no such thing as a hero. That's not like a permanent thing. It's an act. And in one moment, you may run into the burning building because you were motivated to do so. And that was interesting. People come out and say, oh my gosh, he's a hero. Well, not really. He was heroic in that moment, but he may not be the next time. He may not be whatever. Now, I'm not saying there's not a functional, way to have your character be somebody who helps others and all that stuff. But let's be honest, we're all just human. And at the bottom of that, we're really just consciousness. You're literally just consciousness. And on top of that, you've built this idea of who you are. And you're trying to fight really hard to defend, no, this is who I am. No, this is who I am. No, this is who I am. And the reality is you're temporary anyway. You're changing all the time, and we're wasting so much energy arguing for this limited sense of self, right? And so what I'm here to do is I'm here to make you aware that that thing is a bit of a sham, that there's a bit of a lie going on there, and that you can edit that and actually alter yourself like a real mutant would, right? Like a real X-Men would, and actually change behavior, change how you think and see things, and actually change these lenses, get rid of these lenses that are limiting to you, and put in effective, useful lenses that make you optimize. right? If you think about a really successful person and a really unsuccessful person and check how they're thinking about themselves in the world, it'll be completely different, right? It'll be completely different. If you edit that, you'll have the behaviors, you'll do all the things that make you start to rock the house.
So it's funny because that's actually when at the very beginning of doing all these interviews, and this is the hard thing about doing interviews, is that I feel like we put people on pedestals. I had millionaires on a pedestal for a ridiculously long period of time. And then when I started hanging out with them and being like, oh, you mess up all the time too. That makes me feel so much better.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so as soon as I started like bringing that in and being like, oh, I'm actually smarter than some of them, right? Like,
a lot smarter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So things start to come out, and that starts and I don't know if it's internal or external, like you're talking about before, but that started shifting who I was, because I was like, wait a minute, I'm not so sure that there's a whole thing with this.
Let's talk about that, right? Okay. It feels like I want to be that thing. Let's look at the fact of desire for a second, right? Wanting something actually means that you don't have it. Okay. So if you're thinking, I want money, you're not in a space where you're thinking about what you do have and how much money you do have. You're thinking, I don't have money. That's what that actually means, right? I want money. So I want to be an entrepreneur is actually saying to yourself, I'm not an entrepreneur. There's something special or different or other in them that I am not yet. So I got to go learn. I've got to go change myself. I've got to go do something because I'm not that yet. And what I'm saying to you is, if in that moment, whether you have any clients, whether you've sold anything, whether you do anything, if you take on the identity of I am an entrepreneur, I might not be making any money yet. There's details about this, right? I am an athlete. You might still be 100 pounds overweight and not very athletic in your movement or anything, but the identity of I am this thing, right? Owning that changes the whole game. So as long as you put off like, I'm not an entrepreneur yet, I'm not an entrepreneur yet, you're going to be, I'm learning. That's what your identity is. As soon as you get around people and you see, oh, this isn't that special, I'm kind of like them, whatever, I guarantee that you stepped over and started to go, well, I can be an entrepreneur too. I'm an entrepreneur now. And then as you do other things and you get other evidence that you are, you start feeling more and more and more. Before you know it, a couple of years go by and you're like, yeah, of course, I've been doing this for years. This is who I am, right? Look at me. And then you get called and you get interviewed places and all that because now you're an entrepreneur. But that can happen so much more quickly because for many people, it doesn't happen at all. They just stay in that I want to be, I will be one day place. And that's actually safer. They're used to that. They get attention of that. I can't tell you how many victims are out there just telling you how bad their day is because that's their strategy to get significance and attention. Right?
I chatted with one of my friends the other day and I was like, do not be a victim. And she was like, I'm
so
darn
sick of it.
crap.
Just cut it out. You know, like that's enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially of a mom of two twin boys that are 3. So I just, you have choices, lady.
Yeah.
So a question about this, because I actually get told this quite a bit. My definition of eventual millionaire is a little bit different because I want to enjoy every day. I am, 97% of the way there. And yet mentors will tell me, if you have a show that's called Eventual Millionaire, you're never going to get there because it's always in your head. And I'm like, and then I go, well, I own eventualbillionaire.com also, right? As like a joke. But what's funny is they've actually told me to change it multiple times. And of course, it's my brand and I'm resistant. Maybe it's ego, whatever. I'm resistant to changing that, but it's an interesting piece.
As long as you're aware of that, I think that so when that stuff's unconscious, I think it's pretty powerful. But let's not get into woo-woo and magic too much. There's a lot of things in like The Secret that are valuable, and then it gets applied in a way that makes it kind of magical. Like if I just think about having $1 million, I have $1 million. Like, not true. You won't. I promise. That's not how that goes. Like, you're not going to manifest that in your thinking. You may manifest how you can behave differently to start taking actions, to start creating value, to start exchanging value, and you'll become a millionaire that way. And there is a huge amount of power in visualizing and doing those things, but only in so much that it sets up the reticular activation center to move your focus and your motivation towards something, right? Okay. So I would say that yes, that's there probably could, the whole idea of becoming kind of implies this time and this sense of I'm not there yet, right? The mindset of I'm not there yet is a pretty consistent human problem, right? Because we pattern these ways of being in our brain that even when we do get there, we're not very good at being anywhere that we are. And we go, oh, there's a new there to be, right? Because I'm not there yet, right?
I'm a coach too. This is what I hear all the time. You see these entrepreneurs like go, go, go. Because I mean, progress was my mantra since I was 8, right? So you see them and then they get there and they're like, the next thing. And I was like, can we just chill for a second and realize what you just said? Because you didn't even realize it.
I like to say this. It's like, I've got to get there. I've got to get there. The reality is, if you actually look at time, and I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the meditation stuff. I don't know if it's interesting on this call, but at some point I'd love to talk to you about that because you said, well, people don't want the thoughts to be that loud. We're actually trying to get the thoughts to be quiet, right? So that we could actually be present and learn what it is to fully be here.
Yes.
Because what I like to say to people is there is no there. You've never been to there. There's no such thing. The only place there is ever is here. And so it's not about getting there. It's about getting here, but in a way where you're deeply happy, confident, you're taking killer action, you're thrilled about who you are, and you're living an embodied, rich experience of this life, right? Does that make sense?
Well, so I get on a soapbox here also, right? So to me, I have goals. Don't get me wrong. Goals are great. And I have short-term feeling goals. I want to feel joy. I want to feel this because that's all we have right now. This is why I tell all my clients to see exactly. Oh my gosh. That's exactly how I feel. And it's so funny because when I suggest to clients about meditation, the reason why they're resistant is because they feel like it's bringing those thoughts up. But the whole point of it is to actually be here now and feel what's here now, because again, this is the only moment that we actually have.
So let's go back to the name of your show, right? I think if that's unconscious to you, that might put in a thing. But I also think that as long as you know that, just call it that. It's great for certain people. It's what people want to be. They want to eventually become a millionaire. So use it, but just don't let that drive you. Like start to think about yourself, like completely owning, rocking that out, and you don't have to change your brand. I wouldn't worry. It's not
about the money.
The universe knows when you're kidding. Yeah. Also, so you could do stuff and whatever. Like, don't say that. Don't put that into the universe. The universe got my back. It knows when I'm kidding. Don't worry about that.
Seriously. Yeah. But then there's a piece, I think, of trying to pay attention to what is here and now and being an entrepreneur and planning and looking forward to the future and loving forward momentum.
Can I give that a structure?
Yes, please.
So can you read that? I don't know.
Stillness in motion. Yes, I've been wanting to know what that says the entire time. Good.
That says stillness in motion. Let me explain what that means. I've already talked about it. We've got this this sense of the art of fulfillment and the science of success, right? And if you think about the roots of those in Eastern culture, they've for years been really, really interested in the present, like in meditation and working with consciousness to become really awake and alive. And there's so much evidence that that's real. That's not woo-woo. Like it's a real thing. You can actually change your states and get into this stuff and get a lot of joy out of that. However, if you're the burning monk, I don't know if you've ever seen the burning monk. He have you seen that picture on Time and all that stuff? Lit himself on fire. Yep. Not very successful at stopping the tanks necessarily, right? Like great statement and a great mastery of his own consciousness, but not necessarily very powerful individual. So that's a lot of what the East has been interested in historically to add to human consciousness. Here in the West, we've been like, I don't care about now at all. I got progress. We got to get to Mars. We got to go over here. We got to do all this, right? So here you've got coaches like Les Brown and Tony Robbins and all that stuff like success. Let's do that. And in the other aspect, you've got Eckhart Tolle or Krishnamurti or Thich Nhat Hanh or these different people who are teaching that. But these we want both, right? We want to be able to be really full and still and pleased and present, and we want to be able to master success and things over time, right? Creation and all that. So because I'm interested in both and because I teach both and I think that they're both fundamental, the idea of stillness in motion is this idea of like, how do you bring that stillness, that awakeness, that enlightenment into these big things that are the motion, right? So how do you bring stillness? You don't need to find stillness just on a couch or a seat while you're sitting in meditation. How do you carry that into like doing the dishes and being on a sales call? So like right now, I'm very aware of my body, what my feet feel like on the ground. I feel incredibly embodied. And even though I'm talking and thinking, I'm really, really still in my being. And I'm bringing that into motion and accomplishment by talking to you and being on a podcast and sharing these ideas with people. And so to me, that's the next level of human evolution, is to gain our awareness in such a way that we gain these skills over putting down these persistent egos that are so limiting and have all these limiting beliefs of I'm horrible and I procrastinate and all that, waking up from that, mastering stillness and happiness and real true gratitude and joy in the moment, and not misunderstanding that that's going to leave us on some rock sitting there and not being able to move or do anything, but actually taking that into the world and becoming really prolific and really sharing ourselves and really, really awake and really like redefining enlightenment.
I agree 1,000%. Also, because we feel like we want both we're like, oh, well, the stuff shouldn't matter. But who cares? We love stuff. That's okay. It's right. Feeling crappy when you don't have it or feeling crappy because of things, that's another thing completely. But actually getting stuff or achieving things that feel really good, that's okay to feel really good. And I feel like that's the piece. You either have the people that are sort of separating themselves, being like, I don't need money and I don't need stuff, right? And I want to be both of them. I like money and I like stuff and I like being here and now and in the moment, enjoying every second, because I feel like to me that is true fulfillment, where I can feel all of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you should totally be able to receive. We're living in an infinitely abundant place, right? Our money and our exchange of value is not based on a limited set of gold that's in the ground. It's based on exchange of innovation and ideas and all that. And whole new industries are created, which like shows us that our value is limitless, right? And let's say that money got weird and really got locked down or whatever. Side economies would just start to sprout. I would mow your lawn and somebody would give me a massage and I would make the shoes, and like other economies would just happen, right? So this idea that there's this limited pie that we have to get or whatever, if you want to become a coach, let's say, if you just learn a couple skills to do that and learn how to sell, learn how to figure that out, all of a sudden you're exchanging value with somebody immediately and you can build a big business, right? With nothing other than information and selling information. So it's really, really powerful.
So what's so difficult is that we went on this tangent so much, which I adore, hence the reason why we went down this path, is that we didn't even get into the selling stuff, but I know we have to start wrapping up. So I'm going to have you back on the show to actually talk about the tactics and logical side of how this goes.
I want to share about my business because we've done really, really big things, going from like one-on-one coaching and doing very, very well at that to doing products and groups and bigger things like that. And I love all the tech behind. I've got a tech background. So please have me on again. I would love to come.
Yes, we're going to riff on all of that because I adore. And a lot of people listening go like, oh, great. Thanks for saying that, because now I really want to listen. That was the point. No, I'm kidding. Hashtag marketing. So what I have to do is I have to wrap up because I know you have a call really, really soon. Yeah. So I ask the same last question every single time, and it's what's one action listeners can take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of $1 million and fulfillment?
Yeah, well, I think it would be to try to find, if you're not already, then your current state of mind is creating what you have going on. So I think that the biggest shortcut to hacking that is to get in there and make that list of those limiting beliefs, make some new choices about that, and learn how you can get those things repatterned into your brain so that you actually change who you are and create yourself into the entrepreneur or the investor or the employee or whoever you want to be, that's really going to be capable to make that first million.
The world is your oyster, people. Come on.
There you go.
It's available. So go make sure you do that. Thank you so much for coming on today, Rob. You tell us where we can find more about you and all more about what we're talking about right now, because I'm sure they want more.
I've got 3 websites because I know it's awesome to leave with totally different choices.
3 calls to action. Go.
Yeah. Like here's one. If you want to just hang out with me and get a ton of free tools and check out a lot of stuff, you can go to robscott.com. So it's just my name. That's it. If you're specifically interested in identity shifting, I've got a site called identityshifting.com where you can learn more about what I do there. And there's cool stuff on that site. And then I have a 7-day awareness challenge that is amazing. It's called Back to Breath. And it's just a 7-day thing. And I take you through and I give you a little audio to make becoming more aware of your mind really easy and fun. So it's not a pain in the butt. So that's at backtobreath.com, and you can just sign up for your free account there.
And go do that. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Rob. I really appreciate it.
It's been really fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you want to check out more amazing resources, I'm only curating the best of the best. Go check out eventualmillionaire.com. You can take the Eventual Millionaire quiz, figure out where you are in business and what you need right now. Plus, you can look at curated resources specifically for you on the new Start Here page. I'm so excited. Please join us. Please let me know if you need anything at all. I'm here for you. And have a fantastic day. Bye.